Hey guys, Apollo here from Party Time DJ Services with a brand new active speaker review. And once again, we're going to go with a brand new Yorkville speaker. I say brand new, it's actually a revamped version or a revamped line from Yorkville, the famous NX line, which has been in existence probably around 20 years or so. I remember some of my first speakers from that line were the original NX20s, which were passive speakers. But back then, almost everything was wood, and these were like plastic speakers. It was phenomenal for me because I remember we used to have these little Yorkville brochures in our store. It was Prom Music in Sudbury back then, and this new brochure had this brand new plastic speaker, which was pretty much not quite unheard of, but it was very new at the time, and they were lightweight, coming in like 20 some pounds, 12-inch woofer. Decent compression driver, and I was all excited. I think I ended up getting like four of those, and my main complaint with those back then and the passive ones were that the low frequencies are very weak, unfortunately. But eventually, once the powered versions came out, which I believe were the NX520Ps came out, followed by the NX55Ps, which were my first actual quality active speakers. When those came out, that was like a breakthrough from Yorkville because these speakers sounded so damn sweet. I remember getting my NX55Ps in my studio here and plugging in, I think it was like a Dixie Chick song or something, doesn't really matter. But I just remember the low frequency response that came out of these things was like, whoa. And back then, well, it was heavily processed, but back then it just sounded so damn good. And I think they went down to like 45 hertz. And for a compact plastic speaker with a 12-inch woofer to go down to like 45 hertz was pretty phenomenal. It's just sweet sounding. It was like basically a home stereo speaker, but on steroids. Up to a certain point, of course, because a 12-inch woofer can only produce 45 hertz up to a certain level. But still, it was impressive at lower levels. At higher at volumes, unfortunately, like the eventually the limiting there has to protect the woofer because any 12-inch can just move so much air. But still, they were impressive. They were hi-fi sounding. I loved them. And I think at one point I had like four NX55Ps. Eventually, I moved up to or I switched over to the Yamaha DXRs. But I had those NX55Ps I think for about 7 or 8 years, and they performed flawlessly. They got beat up quite a bit, and they did a lot of not only DJ work, but I used to sing in a lot of schools under Ami Alain, which was the French. I was a French performer for children, singing educational songs and stuff. Anyway, I digress. Talking about the NX series, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but NX series has been revamped by Yorkville because, like I say, this has been the system. It's been a series that's been out for a long time. It was due for a revamp, and I wanted to get the NX12P because that would be the easiest one for me to compare to my speakers because I do have the Elite EF 12Ps. I have these Personas Air 12s, and I also have my KX Audio KX12s down here. But unfortunately, my Long McQuaid in Sudbury did not have the NX12Ps in rental stock. They actually had some stock to sell, but not the rental stock. So I said, you know what? I'll try the NX8P, which is just a cute little speaker. It's the tiniest in I don't know if I don't recall if Yorkville ever actually made an 8-inch. I think that at some point they had like a passive 8-inch that had a dedicated little amplifier with it. But it is an 8-inch active speaker, the NX8P, powered by 1,000 watts. The specs do state 2,600 watt peak figure. I don't believe much in peak figures. I call them marketing watts. So, but considering this is Yorkville, I'm going to say there's a clean 1,000 watts of available power to the transducers in there. And I did take the liberty of opening up the cabinet and looking inside, and they are definitely very beefy components in there, transducers. The woofer has a very big magnet, as does the compression driver. Some very nice stuff. That is the difference, I think, if you move up from like the YXL line is excellent, but if you want a bit more performance and higher quality transducers, that'll take even more of a pounding. That's what you're getting in the NX series. That's like a step up from the YXL. Then you move into the Parasource and into the Elite. But very nice little cute cabinet. As you can see, I'm holding it just like this. It's 27 pounds and very feature loaded. A maximum SPL of 123 decibels peak, which is, I'm going to say it's like the watts thing and the SPL thing. Every different manufacturer tests or measures these differently. There's no established guidelines that every manufacturer must follow. Do they measure it in half space, full space, quarter space? Do they measure it with a given frequency, with the sound wave, or just a? I think they probably look for the frequency that'll get the highest SPL. Sometimes they'll just remove all the limiting and see what frequency can be the loudest measured one for a millisecond before the transducers explode, and then they print that number. In reality, even if some speakers say they had 134 decibels output, 127, 139 decibels, in the real world with real playback music and with the limiters engaged to protect the transducers, you will never actually see those numbers. Get yourself an SPL meter, set it up at either C or A weighting. Put it about a meter from the actual speaker, crank her up and see how loud you get. And you'll probably be in the between 108 and 113 decibels of actual sound. So don't worry too much about specs. Worry more about reliability and actual support you'll get from the manufacturer. That's why I always recommend companies like Yorkville. They've been around forever. And in 10 years from now, you'll still be able to get parts for these guys. So have a quick look at the back panel. I'm talking a lot for no reason today. And here's the very nice panel in the back. You'll see the, I'm holding the speaker right now, so I can't really point to things. But there's actually a total of 3 channels. The first 2 are mono channels, each one having a 90 hertz high pass filter. If you're playing a mic or even an instrument and you don't want that low end in there, activate that. Both are combination connectors, 1/4 inch and XLR. And they're both mono channels. Then you have a third channel, which is a stereo channel, but also it has a 1/8 inch connector you can plug in to an MP3 player or something, but also Bluetooth. Great to have these days. And you can actually do Bluetooth and stereo if you have a pair of these. One becomes your main unit, and you can becomes a left channel. Connect the second one, press the Bluetooth button twice, and it engages stereo mode. And the slave, kind of becomes the right channel. So very, very nice from Yorkville. You also have a main master volume level under the third channel, and you have 3 different sound modes. You can choose live, club. Is it club? Yeah, club or monitor. So depending on the application, you also have a 100 hertz high pass filter if you're using subs with these units, which I would recommend in most cases, because any 8-inch active speaker or any 8-inch speaker can only move so much air. But I've tested these. I think I'll put it down now. I've been holding it for a few minutes, but I've tested these. I've listened to them for a few hours anyway, with all kinds of different music. They sound great. Today's speakers are so well processed out of the box that you'll have a hard time finding one that doesn't sound, at least somewhat decent. But great sound, very high output, very lots of available headroom. And even once you get that clip light, that's another thing I should mention back here. This level here, your master level, when it blinks here, it's showing you that there's clipping or there's too much signal or whatnot. I try to keep it more towards the end of the volume, so that you need to apply a bit less signal, so you don't, if you're feeding this a clipped signal in the first place, it's just going to make the sound worse. So I try to keep it probably around 3/4 of set the sensitivity at like 3/4, and then just feed it some signal. So overall, very good sounding speaker. I would never recommend using an 8-inch speaker for DJ applications. You do need subs with these, but there's so many applications where you can actually use them standalone. Vocal reinforcement as monitors, you can set them in monitor mode. Even acoustic duo, if you have a pair of these, they do provide enough thump. They go down to 65 hertz, but keep in mind they are 8-inch woofers. They are processed in the club mode. They do still provide some thump, and they do have a nice full sound within limits. You have to be reasonable, because an 8-inch woofer, even the large woofer in there with a large magnet structure, can only move so much air. So as long as you're sensible with them, they are very well protected, because once you do cross that threshold where the woofer, the limiter is engaging and that light is telling you, okay, that's enough, you can still get a few more decibels easily. It's just that the mids and the highs are going to get louder rather than the actual lower bass, which is normal. It's probably the best way to proceed, because I think with an active speaker and with today's modern technology, essentially what you want is that whatever your application, especially if you're doing a live sound, or if you're performing, you always want the vocals to come out as clear, as loud as possible. So if it has to, sacrifice some of that deeper bass, it's usually worth it if you're just trying to get your vocals out there. But pair these little guys, these little 8-inch speakers, with some decent subs, and wow, you've got a winner here. Because I did compare them to like my I know my Yamaha DHR 10s back there and my RCF Art 310As, and they pretty much very similar output wise. They even came pretty close in the low frequency, probably just because of the bigger woofer in there. It actually has some decent capability. All those down to 65 hertz. That's more than reasonable for an 8-inch speaker. So I did compare them sound quality wise as well, compared to my DHR and RCFs. I find the NXs just need a little boost up top, but they'll sound very similar. So it's a high quality compression driver in there, very high quality woofer in there. As mentioned, I did open them up. Don't tell Long and McQuaid, but yeah, like huge magnets. That's usually the size of the magnets. That means they probably have decent sized voice coils as well. So at longer, like prolonged periods of high output sound, something with a bigger magnet, bigger voice coil is less likely to heat up. Because a lot of the cheaper speakers, that's what happens. They'll start off loud. As the night goes on, it gets hotter and hotter. The voice will gets hotter. The impedance shifts, and once the impedance shifts, it'll get less power from the amplifier, because the like I say, the impedance changes, the ohms change. And eventually it's called power compression, where as the night goes on, you seem to get less and less levels, and you seem to need to be turning up the volumes just to keep it at the same level. But the bigger these transducers are, the higher quality transducers are in there, the less that's likely to happen during the night. So as mentioned, that's the difference between, I think, the YXL and the NX. While the boxes do look sort of similar, what's actually in there, the beefier components, I think in the long run and at the end of the night, they'll be sounding better than the cheaper version. So that's why the price is different. In Canada here, like the YXL 10P is at $4.99. These retail at $9.99. The 12-inch version retails at $11.49, I believe. So very reasonable. My next review will be on the NX12P. As soon as my dealer gets them in, I definitely will take them out for a test spin. And as mentioned, I do have a lot of stuff to compare to here. So there you go. NX8P. As mentioned, I would only recommend these with subs unless you're doing very small events, or you're doing events where the vocal is more the objective of getting vocals out there. If you're doing speeches, stuff like that, even as a ceremony speaker, absolutely. Like I say, they do have a nice full sound up to a certain level. You have to be realistic with your expectations from an 8-inch woofer, but considering its size and its weight of 27 pounds, it performs very, very well. So nothing really too negative to say about it. I will eventually probably try it out with some subs, even with my DXS 12 MK2s here. I'm sure they do a great system. Yorkville also has the NX subs to go with these. So rent them. That's the thing with Long McQuaid. They're so cheap to rent. When it comes to half price rental day, rent a pair of subs with them, take them out and beat the crap out of them. That's what they're designed. That's what Yorkvilles are designed to do. They test these things to destruction and then they redesign them. So they are meant for rental departments. They are meant to take your shit. So you don't be afraid. I mean, don't keep them in steady limit all night long. Be reasonable, but they are designed, to handle that. That's why you see them in the rental department, beat up to crap, but still working. So that's the thing with Yorkville. It's not like Alto or Mackie crap where you're getting stuff that's built to a price. You do pay a bit more for the Yorkville stuff, and that's because you've got better electronics in there, you have better transducers in there, and you have better company to back it up. And Long McQuaid, you can even buy an extended warranty on these for an extra year, add years, and that way your purchase, that initial purchase that may be a little bit more expensive, will be worth it in the long run for you. So yeah, take these out for a test spin, try them with the sub or two, and let me know what you think. I haven't had a chance to try them with subs, but just compared to my other tops, they perform as well. And in the studio, I can only push them so much, but I will be looking forward to using them with some subs at a bigger event, and we'll definitely report back. And we'll be looking at a NX12P review in the near future. Have a good one, guys. If you have any questions, I do allow comments in my to my videos now. I do check them before, but I will post them and I will definitely answer as soon as I can. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Al Pullen here from Party Time DJ Services.